Claire smirked. Right there in the courtroom, signing away 9 years of marriage, she smirked. Daniel Ross watched it happen from across the table. A small curve at the corner of her mouth. Controlled. Deliberate. Not the smile of a woman losing something. The smile of a woman getting away with something. That's it. Then, the judge said. Daniel stood. His knees felt wrong, like they belonged to a stranger. He picked up his coat and walked out without a word. Claire caught up to him under the stone archway outside, where the rain hadn't reached yet. You could have fought for more, she said. The house, at least. I didn't want the house. You never wanted anything. A pause. That was always the problem. He looked at her. Really looked. This wasn't the woman he married. Her coat was new. Her earrings were new. Even her voice sounded different, rehearsed, like she'd been practicing being someone else. Take care of yourself, Claire. I always do. That smile again. And this time, as she turned and walked back toward the courthouse, Daniel heard her laugh. Quiet. To herself. He didn't know it yet. But that laugh was the first clue in a mystery he hadn't realized he was standing inside of. His phone buzzed twice on the drive home that night. Claire's name on the screen. He let it ring out both times. The second call left a voicemail. He didn't listen to it. Not yet. He tossed the phone onto the passenger seat and kept driving, north, away from the city, away from her, toward nothing in particular. He didn't know it yet, but that voicemail would matter. Later. More than he could imagine. 2 hours up the highway. A plain envelope sat waiting for him at his brother's apartment. Forwarded from his old address. A law firm's letterhead visible through the corner of the paper. His brother held it out at the door. This came last week. Some lawyer's office. They called twice. Daniel stared at it under the porch light. Open it, his brother said. He didn't. He folded it into his coat pocket and got back in his car. Some mysteries, once opened, can't be closed again. Some part of him already sensed that. He drove until the roads turned unfamiliar, until sleet hit the windshield, until a faded sign appeared out of the dark. Maple Hollow, population 2,114. At the end of the main street, one light still burned. A diner called the Lantern. He went in more for warmth than hunger. A woman stood behind the counter. Sleeves rolled up. Dark hair pulled back. She looked at him the way people look at something they're trying to figure out. You look like a man who's had a day, she said. That obvious? Rain in your hair. A suit at 1 in the morning. Guessing it wasn't a good one. He almost smiled. Nobody had looked at him that closely in months. It wasn't the best. I'm Anna. Kitchen's closing, but I can still get you pie. Pie sounds good. She cut a slice without asking twice. Careful movements. Efficient. Like someone who had learned, a long time ago, not to waste anything. Not motion. Not words. He didn't know yet that Anna was carrying her own unopened letter from a woman 200 miles from here who had once known them both, though neither of them knew that yet either. He finished the pie. He didn't leave. He told himself one more coffee. Then one more night. Somehow 3 days passed, and the envelope in his coat pocket stayed sealed. On the 4th night, Anna noticed the corner of paper poking from his jacket. You've been carrying that around like it might bite you. Daniel pulled it out, turned it over in his hands. Law office. 200 miles from here. No idea why they're writing to me. Only one way to know. He opened it at the counter. Mr. Ross, we represent the estate of Margaret Eleanor Voss. As the sole surviving descendant named in her will, your presence is required at our office at your earliest convenience to discuss the distribution of her assets. Daniel read it twice. Margaret Voss. My mother's aunt. I met her twice in my life. I didn't even know she'd passed. An estate, Anna said. That could mean a lot of things. Probably not much. She was a widow. Lived alone in an old house outside a small town. I always figured she got by on very little. If anything, there's a box of china somewhere with my name taped to the bottom. He had no idea how wrong that guess would turn out to be. He called the number the next morning, standing on the sidewalk. A receptionist confirmed an appointment for the following week. Then she added something that made him go still. I should mention, sir, a Ms. Claire Ross reached out to our office several weeks ago. She believes she may have had some claim to the estate. Daniel's stomach dropped. Weeks ago? My divorce only finalized 4 days ago. Yes, sir. Her inquiry came in well before that. He stood there with the phone against his ear, the pieces sliding into place, slower than they should have. Claire had known something. Before the courtroom. Before the smirk. That night. Back at the diner. He finally listened to her voicemail. Anna watched him from across the counter as his face changed. Claire's voice, tight, rehearsed. Daniel, call me back. There are some things about your family, about your aunt, that we should talk through before this gets messy. I only want what's fair. Fair. That word sat wrong in his chest. She knew, he said quietly, before the divorce was even finished. She knew about Margaret. Anna didn't say anything right away. She just refilled his cup, slow, giving him room. What do you think she's after? She finally asked. I don't know yet, Daniel said. But I don't think it's China. The following week, Daniel told Anna everything he'd pieced together. The timing of Claire's call. The rehearsed voicemail. The way she'd smiled like she already knew how the story ended. Anna listened, quiet, her arms crossed on the counter. Ashford Point, she finally said, almost to herself. You know it. Something crossed her face. Gone as fast as it came. I used to. You've never mentioned that. There's a lot I haven't mentioned. She untied her apron slowly. Folded it. A motion that bought her time. For a moment, Daniel watched her hesitate, really hesitate, and something told him she was deciding whether to say the next part at all. Later, she would admit it. She'd nearly let him go to that appointment alone, nearly let him walk into that office without warning, telling herself it wasn't her place to explain a stranger's family to him. It would have been easier, safer. She almost chose that. She didn't. My mother worked for Margaret Voss, she said. 15 years. Caretaker, then companion. I used to visit that house every summer as a kid. Her voice tightened. Margaret talked about a great nephew she barely knew. A boy named Daniel. Me. I wasn't sure at first, but she kept photographs. A boy at a funeral. A young man at a wedding. Anna's eyes were bright now. She used to say she wished she'd tried harder before it was too late. Why almost not tell me? Anna looked down. Because the moment I say it out loud, I stop being just someone you met at a counter. I become part of your family's story, whether I want to be or not. That scared me more than I expected. And now? Now I think staying quiet would have scared me more. Daniel reached across the counter and covered her hand with his. She may have left something for you too. Anna's breath caught. I never checked. There's a letter from her I never opened. It's still at my apartment above the diner. Then let's both stop carrying unopened letters, Daniel said. Let's go find out. Together. The drive to Ashford Point took 4 hours. Neither said much. The kind of silence that builds towards something, rather than avoiding it. The law office sat inside a converted Victorian house near the town square. Mr. Cole, the attorney, greeted them both, then stopped cold at Anna's name. Anna Whitfield, he said. Good heavens. Margaret spoke of you often. He led them inside and set a small wooden box on the desk first. Nothing else, just the box. Before anything else, Mr. Ross, Margaret wanted you to have this personally. Daniel opened it slowly, half expecting China, half expecting nothing at all. Inside sat an old pocket watch, a handful of photographs, and a small stack of letters his mother had written decades ago and never sent. This is... Daniel's throat tightened. This is more than I expected. I thought there might be nothing left at all. There's more, Mr. Cole said gently. A great deal more. He opened a second folder. Margaret's estate is larger than most people here ever realized. Her late husband's business interests, combined with decades of careful investment, left her with a fortune valued at just over $11 million. Aside from a few smaller bequests, all of it goes to you, as her only living blood relative. Daniel sat very still. 11 million. Mr. Cole slid an envelope across the desk. Daniel opened it with unsteady hands. Dear Daniel, you won't remember this, but the last time I saw you, at your cousin's wedding, you gave up your seat at the head table so an elderly stranger wouldn't have to stand through the toasts. You didn't know that stranger was me. I never forgot it. It told me everything I needed to know about who you'd become, even though I let too many years pass without finding out for certain. I leave you what I have, not because you earned it in any way you'd recognize, but because family is not about who stayed close. It is about who is left standing when everyone else has gone. Use this to build something that matters. Daniel had to stop reading. His throat had gone tight. Then Mr. Cole turned to Anna. Ms. Whitfield, Margaret left something for you as well. He handed her a second envelope. Anna opened it slowly. A deed. A small property outside of town. Enough funds to finish the nursing degree she'd once set aside. Tears slid down her face before she could stop them. There is one more matter, Mr. Cole said, his tone careful now. Your former wife contacted our office weeks before your divorce finalized. How did she even know Margaret existed? Daniel asked. I barely remembered her myself. Mr. Cole hesitated. That, I can't answer. But her attorney mentioned she'd found some old family correspondence. Letters, apparently, that had been kept in storage. And there it was, the piece that finally reframed everything. 2 years earlier, back when their marriage still looked whole from the outside, Daniel had asked Claire to help him sort through boxes from his late mother's house. Old photographs. Old letters. He remembered her sitting on the floor for hours, quiet, going through every page while he made dinner in the next room. He'd assumed she was simply helping. She hadn't been helping. She'd been reading, quietly cataloging a name that kept appearing, Margaret Voss, wealthy, aging, alone, and a great-nephew who never bothered to visit her. She'd tucked that knowledge away for 2 years, waiting, watching, patient in the particular way only someone building towards something can be patient. When their marriage finally cracked, she hadn't fought to save it. She'd simply calculated the fastest, cleanest way out, one that kept her free to make her own claim on a fortune she assumed Daniel would never think to look for. She'd been wrong about one thing. He found it before she could take it. She has no legal standing, Mr. Cole continued. Margaret's will was drafted 12 years ago, long before your marriage. It names you by blood, not by marital status. We informed her attorney of this in writing. I suspect that's precisely why the divorce moved as quickly as it did. She wanted a clean separation before the inheritance became public. The smirk in the courtroom finally explained. She hadn't been celebrating freedom. She'd been protecting a plan 2 years in the making. They walked out of the office as the afternoon sun broke weakly through the clouds. First real sunlight in weeks. Anna stood on the sidewalk, the deed held against her chest, and looked at Daniel with something unguarded in her face. I don't know what to do with any of this, she admitted. Me neither, Daniel said. But I think we've got time to figure it out. Together? If you'll have me. She took his hand. Simple. Quiet. The way two people do when they've decided, without saying it out loud, that whatever came next, they weren't facing it alone. Daniel stayed in Maple Hollow. Not for the money. The money just gave him room to breathe. He stayed because somewhere between the coffee, the pie, and a woman who'd almost let her own fear keep her silent, he'd found something he wasn't looking for. A place that finally felt like home. He used part of the inheritance to help Anna rebuild the diner. New roof. New kitchen. He helped fund the nursing classes Margaret had believed she deserved. Not to buy anything from her. Because for the first time in his life, he had the means to help someone build something real, and he wanted to. Claire called twice more that month. Daniel let both go to voicemail. The messages grew shorter each time, less rehearsed, more honest, until the last one simply said, I know how this looks. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't. He didn't call back. There wasn't any anger left in him. Just a closed door. Quiet. Permanent. Almost a year after that first rainy night, Daniel sat at the same counter stool. Anna, in nursing scrubs from her evening classes, poured coffee for the last customer of the night. You ever think about that first night? He asked. All the time, she said, sitting across from him. I think about how close I came to saying nothing. About Margaret. About any of it. What made you finally tell me? She thought about it carefully, the way she thought about most things. You looked like someone who'd spent a long time being lied to, she said. I almost stayed quiet anyway. It would have been easier. But I didn't want to be one more person who did that to you. Daniel took her hand. I'm glad you didn't, he said. I'm glad you told me the truth, even when it scared you. Outside, rain kept falling. Soft. Steady. Against the windows of a small diner, most people passed without ever noticing. Some inheritances arrive in envelopes, in numbers on a page, in the careful, formal language of lawyers doing their quiet work. But the truest inheritance Daniel ever received wasn't the money. It was learning, at 41 years old, in a town he found by accident, that being truly known by another person was worth more than anything a courtroom or 2 years of quiet planning could ever divide. 200 miles south, Claire Ross would spend a long time wondering what exactly she'd smiled about that day in court, and whether, if she'd simply stayed honest, 2 years earlier, on the floor of that apartment, sorting through old letters, she might have ended up with more than she ever lost by leaving. But that was her story now, not his. His story was here, in the warm light of a small diner. Rain on the windows, coffee steam curling into quiet air. Sitting across from a woman who had finally chosen to tell him the truth, even when silence would have been easier. For Daniel Ross, that was enough.